Welcome to Conspiracist. Today, we're diving into some really intriguing material. It's exploring this hypothesis, this idea that maybe governments have, well, intentionally hidden evidence about ancient prophecies. So our mission, really, in this deep dive is to try and rigorously examine the claims, look at the reasoning presented in the sources we have, and just maintain a professional analytical approach.
Yeah.
We want to understand the core arguments here.
It's definitely a compelling idea, and it immediately raises some key questions, doesn't it? Like, what kind of evidence are we suggesting is being hidden?
Right.
And if there were some kind of cover-up, how might that even work? Why would they do it?
Exactly.
Which I think naturally leads us to think about the nature of these ancient prophecies themselves. What were they really like?
Yeah. Good starting point. And maybe to unpack that, one example that often comes up in these sorts of discussions is the whole 2012 phenomenon.
Oh, definitely.
You probably remember it was everywhere, these widespread beliefs about 2012 being some kind of end date tied heavily to interpretations of the Mayan calendar.
I do remember. And the sources likely touched on all the various claims swirling around that time.
I think so, yeah.
Things like galactic alignment, which astronomically speaking happens over such a vast timescale, not one specific year.
Right, not a 2012 event.
No. And then there was the idea of Earth entering a photon belt.
Vaguely remember that one.
Scientifically, not really a thing. Plus, speculation about the star Betelgeuse going supernova, maybe even ideas about alien contact being imminent.
And, as the sources probably pointed out, the scientific community largely, well, debunked these specific ideas, didn't they?
They did. That galactic alignment timing, like we said, was off. The photon belt concept just doesn't hold up scientifically.
Yeah.
Betelgeuse, yes, it will go supernova eventually, but it's really far away, not an immediate threat, and timing that is, well, we're talking centuries, probably much longer.
Not exactly tomorrow's news headline.
Not at all. And then, organizations like SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, they found absolutely no credible evidence for any alien spacecraft showing up in 2012.
Okay. But what's really interesting and relevant for our discussion is the public reaction, even after scientists weighed in.
Yes, absolutely. The level of fear, the anxiety some people felt, it really highlights the power of belief, doesn't it?
It really does, especially when it gets amplified by, well, the internet and mass communication.
It shows how easily available information, whether it's accurate or not, can really shape public perception and feeling.
And it definitely soaked into popular culture. Movies, books, endless online discussion.
Oh, he's everywhere.
The whole 2012 idea was just pervasive, even though the hard evidence wasn't really there.
Yeah.
So, okay, using 2012 as maybe a recent case study of how prophecy and prediction can grab hold of the public mind, let's dig a bit deeper into the nature of ancient prophecies more broadly, based on the materials.
Sounds good. The sources probably brought some historical examples, right? Like Babylonian tablets.
Yes, I think so.
We're talking thousands of years back. They contain texts that were certainly interpreted as prophecies back then. Lunar eclipses, for instance, were often seen as powerful omens.
Omens predicting what, exactly?
Things like the fall of a city, maybe the death of a king, major societal events.
Okay, so less about, predicting my lottery numbers.
Probably not.
And more about interpreting big natural events as signs relating to kingdoms, leaders, that sort of thing.
That seems to be the case, yes. In many of these ancient cultures, oracles and prophecies weren't necessarily seen as the sort of definitive fortune-telling we might imagine today.
So?
Well, the interpretations often acted more like a framework, a way to understand and kind of rationalize events after they happened, attributing things to the will of the gods or other forces.
So there was maybe a flexibility built in.
Often, yes.
Okay.
A flexibility in how they were understood. It wasn't always about a precise, fixed future.
That seems important. If the prophecy isn't like, this specific thing will happen on this specific date, it leaves room for interpretation, regardless of the outcome.
Exactly. And that's a key difference if we compare that historical view to, say, modern expectations, where prophecy is often treated like a concrete prediction of what will happen.
Right.
Even within, say, religious texts that contain prophecies, there are cases where things didn't happen literally as written. The sources might have mentioned theological views on this.
Possibly.
Yeah, explanations that maybe these prophecies weren't meant literally, or perhaps they were conditional, more like warnings, if you do X, then Y might happen, rather than fixed statements about the future.
Which kind of brings us to a really critical point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do our own biases, the way we think, affect how we interpret this stuff.
Yeah.
Especially something as open-ended as prophecy.
Absolutely crucial.
This feels like the right place to talk about confirmation bias. I believe the materials covered that.
Yes, confirmation bias is it's a fundamental cognitive tendency. It's basically our inclination to look for and favor information that confirms what we already believe or suspect.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we tend to ignore or downplay or reinterpret information that contradicts our existing beliefs.
Okay.
And this bias can be a really powerful factor in why someone might believe, for example, that prophecies are being concealed, even if there's no solid evidence for it.
So if I already think governments are hiding proofs of ancient predictions,
then confirmation bias would likely push you to seek out any ambiguous clue, any odd historical footnote, and interpret it in a way that supports your belief.
and ignore things that don't fit.
Or explain them away perhaps as part of the cover-up itself. It often happens subconsciously. We're not always aware we're doing it.
Right.
The sources might have given other examples, like how we tend to overestimate how consistent people's personalities are. We see someone act kindly once or twice, and we assume they're always kind, even in situations where maybe they wouldn't be.
Yeah, like we build a simplified picture in our heads.
We do. We kind of filter reality through our existing assumptions.
It's like having mental blinkers on, letting in only what supports our view.
That's a good way to put it. And this can lead to something called belief perseverance.
Beliefs perseverance.
Yeah, it's the tendency for people to cling to their beliefs even when they're shown clear evidence against them, or even if the original reason they believed it in the first place gets completely discredited.
Wow. So you hold on even if the foundation crumbles.
Pretty much. Think about, historically, the influence of Pythagoreanism, the core belief that all is number.
Okay.
It became so dominant that for centuries, followers focused almost entirely on finding numerological patterns and confirmations, which arguably might have slowed down the acceptance of more empirical experimental science.
That's a huge example, a core belief shaping centuries of intellectual effort, maybe even holding back other approaches.
It arguably did. Or think about medicine, historically. The persistence of treatments that didn't actually work.
Right. Bloodletting or things like that.
Exactly. If a patient happened to get better after a treatment, people might credit the treatment, but they'd overlook all the times patients didn't get better or maybe got better on their own without the treatment.
So you only count the hits and ignore the misses.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Focusing on those positive instances creates a false sense of effectiveness. And, even today in science, researchers can sometimes be resistant to new findings if they challenge a theory they've worked on for years.
So it's a very human thing, this tendency to seek confirmation rather than, say, actively trying to prove ourselves wrong.
It seems to be deeply ingrained, and it has huge implications, obviously, across all sorts of areas.
Okay. So bringing this back specifically to the idea of governments hiding processes, the framework of conspiracy theories seems relevant here, as the sources probably discussed.
Yes, very relevant. Conspiracy theories typically involve challenging some official authority or narrative, often based on, evidence that might be circumstantial or open to interpretation. And they often employ what you could call a double standard when evaluating evidence or responses.
What do you mean by a double standard there?
Well, it means that if an official body, say, denies the conspiracy, that denial itself can be twisted by believers into more evidence for the conspiracy. See, they're denying it. They must be hiding something.
Right. So there's no way for the authority to win. If they ignore it, they're hiding something. If they deny it, they're definitely hiding something.
Exactly. Within that kind of conspiratorial mindset, both engaging with the claim and dismissing it can be framed as part of the deception. Any perceived inconsistency, any lack of total transparency from authorities gets magnified and presented as proof.
It creates a kind of closed loop, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes it almost impossible to have a productive dialogue or resolution based on evidence.
It can be very difficult. And this is where the skeptical movement, which the sources might have touched on, offers a really different approach.
Skepticism, right. How does that fit in?
Well, skepticism in this context isn't about just being negative or dismissive. It's about critically examining claims, especially extraordinary ones like paranormal or fringe science claims.
Okay.
Using the tools of empiricism, logic, demanding evidence, and evaluating that evidence as objectively as possible.
And this kind of skeptical thinking, it's not exactly new, is it? It goes back a ways.
Oh, absolutely not new. While we have modern skeptical organizations now, the basic principles are ancient. You can find skeptical approaches way back, figures like Lucian of Samosata in ancient Greece,
Okay.
or Michel de Montaigne during the Renaissance. Both of them wrote in ways that questioned accepted beliefs, highlighted how easily humans can be fooled or make errors in reasoning.
So it's a long tradition of questioning and asking for proof, long before modern science as we know it.
Definitely. But, and this is an important point the sources likely also stressed, expertise matters.
Has
Well, critical thinking skills are essential, absolutely. But if you don't have enough background knowledge in a specific complex area, say ancient languages or astrophysics or genetics,
right.
your ability to properly evaluate a claim in that field is limited. Applying critical thinking without sufficient information can actually lead you down the wrong path. It can lead to flawed conclusions.
So you might be thinking critically, but about the wrong things or without the right context.
Exactly. That's sometimes how pseudoscience can arise, applying seemingly logical thinking to incomplete or incorrect information. You need both the critical tools and the relevant knowledge.
It's like having a great toolkit, but not knowing enough about the car engine you're trying to fix.
That's a perfect analogy, precisely. Yeah. Now, another concept that might be relevant here when thinking about hidden prophecies is the idea of the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Ah, yes, where a prediction kind of makes itself come true. How might that connect to hidden ancient prophecies?
Well, a self-fulfilling prophecy works through a kind of feedback loop. A belief, even if it starts out false, influences people's behavior in such a way that the original prediction actually becomes more likely to happen. The sources might have given examples.
Maybe, yeah.
Like in international relations, there's the concept of the Thucydides trap. Thucydides trap. It's the idea that when a rising power threatens to displace an established power, the fear and tension this creates can itself make conflict more likely a conflict that maybe could have been avoided otherwise.
So the very fear or prediction of conflict helps cause it.
That's the idea. Ancient myths are full of this too. Remember the story of King Croesus asking the Delphic oracle if he should attack Persia?
Vaguely.
The oracle gave an ambiguous answer. Basically, a great empire will fall. Croesus assumed it meant Persia, but it was his own empire that fell. His belief in a favorable prophecy led him to the action that destroyed him. Or think of Cronus in Greek myth, trying to prevent his children from overthrowing him by swallowing them, which ultimately led Zeus to be hidden away and, well, eventually overthrow him. The attempt to prevent the prophecy fulfilled it.
So trying to avoid the predicted fate can ironically bring it about.
Exactly. And the sources might have mentioned examples in social dynamics too, like stereotype threat.
Explain that one quickly.
Sure. It's where awareness of a negative stereotype about your group, say, about academic ability, can create anxiety that actually hinders your performance, thereby seeming to confirm the stereotype.
Wow, okay. That's subtle but powerful.
It is. Or the observer expectancy effect in scientific research, where what the researcher expects to find can unintentionally influence the results.
Right, like subconsciously treating study groups differently.
Could be. So thinking about concealed prophecies, how could that belief potentially act like a self-fulfilling prophecy based on the reading?
Well, I suppose if you strongly believe that important prophecies are being hidden, that belief itself might make you interpret, say, ambiguous archaeological finds, or maybe garbled ancient texts, or even current events, in a way that seems to confirm both the prophecy and the cover-up.
Okay, so the interpretation gets skewed by the belief.
Yeah, and maybe that interpretation then influences how you or your group acts. Perhaps you focus resources on finding more proof, or maybe act in ways that align with what you think the hidden prophecy predicts.
Leading to outcomes.
Leading to outcomes that then look like they confirm the original belief about the prophecy and its concealment. It reinforces the whole cycle.
That's a plausible mechanism. The belief shapes perception and action, potentially creating results that seem to validate the initial belief.
It's like the belief itself puts on these special glasses, coloring how you see the world and interact with it, maybe nudging events slightly towards what you expect because of these supposed hidden prophecies.
That's a good way to visualize it. And, you know, this really brings us back to the fundamental difficulties in interpreting ancient texts and prophecies anyway, across huge gaps in time, culture, language.
Yeah, it's not like we have a direct phone line to the original author's brain, is it?
Not even close. There's always interpretation, translation, potential for misunderstanding, losing context.
Always layers between us and the original meaning.
Absolutely. And just looking back through history, it's undeniable that countless predictions from all sorts of sources simply haven't happened as they were literally expected to.
Right. The world didn't end in 2012 or 1000 AD or any number of other predicted dates.
Exactly. And what often happens after a predicted date passes uneventfully.
People reinterpret the prophecy.
Often, yes. They find ways to make it fit what did happen or push the date forward or argue it was meant metaphorically.
Okay.
Similarly, if you start with a strong belief in concealed prophecies, that belief itself might drive you to actively search for evidence, and you might find it through that same kind of selective interpretation, or by assigning great meaning to things that are actually quite ambiguous or unremarkable.
So the conviction that something important is hidden becomes a powerful engine for finding patterns and connections, even if they aren't objectively there.
It can certainly function that way, that basic human drive for meaning, for understanding, for maybe feeling like you have access to secret knowledge. Combined with these cognitive biases like confirmation bias, it can really shape how we look at history in the future, especially when prophecies are involved.
We've definitely covered a lot of ground here in this deep dive. We went from the 2012 phenomenon as a kind of modern example to the nature of ancient prophecies themselves, then into confirmation bias, conspiracy theories, skepticism.
Self-fulfilling prophecies, too, and the basic challenges of interpretation.
Right. So what really seems to emerge from analyzing all this is just how complex the interplay is between, interpreting history, our own psychology, and just the sheer power of belief.
I agree. That 2012 situation really stands out as a vivid example of how widespread beliefs can catch on and stick around, even when the evidence says otherwise.
And understanding confirmation bias, it really drives home how our existing views can act like filters.
Yeah.
Making us find support for what we already think, even if the support is pretty weak.
Definitely. And looking at how conspiracy theories work, it highlights just how tricky it is to even address claims about hidden knowledge, because denials can just get folded back into the narrative.
Yeah, that feedback loop again. So ultimately, while the idea of secret knowledge, of knowing the future, it's fascinating. It has this real pull, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
But evaluating the claims and the reasoning around governments hiding ancient prophecies, it seems the analysis really points towards needing, rigorous methods, relying on evidence we can actually check, and being constantly aware of our own tendencies to maybe see what we expect to see.
I think that's fair. This whole exploration should really make us think hard about the challenges in reading history, interpreting ancient claims, and just how much our own belief systems shape our view of the world.
Well put. Thanks for joining this deep dive into the hypothesis of intentionally concealed ancient prophecy predictions. Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.